Hello again, everyone. My name is Frank Demore, and I would like to welcome you to the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. This is where I take the documentation, watching from the news and around the world. I take this documentation and I connect it with Bible prophecy, and I put it into my book called The Last Chronicles of Planet Earth, and I update this book periodically to give you the latest news about what's happening in relation to Bible prophecy. If you'd like to read this book with no strings attached for free, go to my website, www.bibleprophecyman.com. And when you're there, you'll see the front cover and the back cover of my book. Right below it is a link. Click to the link and you'll be able to download the book for free. Now, what I wanted to spend a little bit of time here, because this is really, really important, and because it's associated with a curse from God about anybody or on anyone who comes against Israel. And if you're brand new to my website or to my channel for the YouTube here, this may be the first time that you've ever heard anything about this, and you should really know about it, because what is happening with the present administration in the United States is definitely going to affect what happens to the United States, and I'm going to show you through the Word of God. Now, there's three main places, and for those of you who've been to my site before, please bear with me. I'm going to give you the same scriptures again. You know that I've given to you before, and hopefully you'll know them by now, but they are important for those people who don't know anything about Bible prophecy. And so you want to take a look at, in Joel chapter 3 verse 2, it says, "And I will also gather all the nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will lead them with their people and my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land." So God is telling us through the prophet Joel here that God is going to destroy anybody who departs Israel, God's land. In Genesis 12:3, there is a curse there, a specific curse, and it says in verse 3 of Genesis 12, it says, "And I will make thee a great nation, and will bless thee," talking about Israel, "and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless you." So anybody that blesses Israel, anybody that takes care of Israel as an ally to Israel will be blessed. But listen to this, "and curse them that curse thee." All right, so in the second part of this verse, we see that there's also a curse that will fall upon anybody who comes against or curses Israel. And then the last prophecy that I want to show you comes from Zechariah 12:3, and it says this, "And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth will be gathered against it." And so specifically it talks about Jerusalem, the city of the main city, the most holy city to the Jewish nation. This is the city that Jesus Christ went into. This is the city that Jesus Christ is going to come back and rule in for 1,000 years at the end of the tribulation when he comes back. So we know that there are going to be bad things that will happen to any nation that comes against Israel, who burdens themselves with Jerusalem, who divides up Jerusalem, and we know that these nations will be cut into pieces and they're going to be under God's curse. Now, I'm saying this because Barack Obama just gave his Mid-East speech today. And when you scroll down after my video, I actually put up the video of Obama's speech today, so you'll be able to listen to the speech. And if you would, please home in on where it starts at the 37-minute mark in his speech, and listen to the 47, a little past the 47-minute mark in that speech, because he talks about Jerusalem. He talks about the borders, about the peace process that's failing, and how he wants to give the borders, or make the borders that of the 1967 borders, which would mean that East Jerusalem would fall in the hands again of the Palestinians. So, and not only that, but he talks about in that framework about creating the state inside Israel, two states, so he'll be dividing Israel. And so you know what's going to happen. God has spoken about coming against Israel or burden themselves with the city. And so the curse has fallen on America. Let me read an article that just came out, and it says, Obama says Palestine must be based in 1967 borders. And this came right out from Washington. President Barack Obama is endorsing the Palestinians' demand for their future state to be based on the borders that existed before the 1967 Middle East War, in a move that will likely infuriate Israel. Israel says the borders of the Palestinian state have to be determined through negotiations. In a speech outlining U.S. policy in the Middle East and North Africa, Obama Thursday sided with the Palestinians' opening position a day ahead of the visit to Washington by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu is vehemently opposed to referring to the 1967 borders, and obviously he would be, because what you're actually being heard here from the president is he wants to give away this property that belongs to Israel to the Palestinians. It goes on to say, until Thursday, the U.S. position had been that the Palestinian goal of the state based on the 1967 borders with agreed land swaps should be reconciled with Israel's desire for secure Jewish state through negotiations. So they're talking about a secure state. This is essentially exactly what Jesus showed the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians 5:3. When they shall call, peace and safety, sudden destruction is going to come. Now, when you listen to this 10-minute span of this speech that President Barack Obama gave, you're going to know that the importance of this is that the bottom line is the things that Barack Obama is doing is not in flowing or running parallel with the Word of God. In other words, he's opposing God. He's going against what God has said for us to do. Now, what is another thing that is really important is that the Lord told us you're going to know people by their fruits, whether they're real Christians or not. And a lot of people call themselves Christians, but people do things that obviously they murder, they, whatever it is, they steal, they do things that God does not want people to do. But they call themselves a Christian. But when you read the word of the Lord, for example, in Matthew chapter 7, verses 16 through 20, Jesus shows people, and what he does is give an analogy about the fruit. He says, ye shall know them by their fruits, talking about the people. You're going to know them by what they do. What do they produce? And are they going to produce this rotten fruit? And obviously, what Obama has said, that he was a Christian man. But Obama's fruit shows that he's going against the Word of God. So the fruit that he's exposing to us that we can see, because the Lord said, you shall know them by their fruit, shows us that he is not in the will of the Lord. And this is really a dangerous posture to be taking for the whole country of the United States, because a little while ago in March, as soon as I heard that Japan had come out, and this is still at my website, by the way, came out and said that they were going to give $30 million to the Palestinian and recognize them as a Palestinian state and worked for the Palestinian state. A few days later, first of all, they ended up with a 7.2 earthquake. And then a few days later, they came out again and supported with new information. And I noted this at my website as well and said, God's curse has fallen on these people. They've gone against God, and look what's going to happen. And then they had the 9.0 earthquake, the tsunami, and obviously now with the meltdown going out, there, as you see from the news today, the economy is in shambles. And so you'll see what's going to happen to the United States. God has a way of sending disasters and showing that he means business. So we really need to be paying attention to what's going to happen. Now, tomorrow, Benjamin Netanyahu is going to arrive, and we'll get some more information about these peace talks. But if I was the president of Israel and I heard the speech about them making the 1967 borders, I would have been really ticked off. And I know that Benjamin Netanyahu is. And everybody wants peace. Everybody wants peace. That's a given. But when you start dealing with this one area, this only nation, the democratic nation in the Middle East, when you start telling the Israelis that you're going to give land away to people who hate you, like Hamas and Hezbollah, and want to destroy you, and even put this in their charter, then you really have to take a look at, what is he doing here? So we know that while they're talking peace and security, just as it says in this article about the security, that's what the borders is supposed to be, trying to set up the secure Jewish state through negotiations. Paul told us that there was going to be destruction that will come while they're calling for peace and safety. And I know for a fact that we're not very long to see the destruction that Paul was warning about and the failed peace process, that they're still calling for peace and safety. So all I could say is, America, your better days are behind you. Don't expect for your economy to pick up at all. You're gonna start to see some really bad things happening in America. More storm. Look for more storms. Whatever it is, I can't tell you. All I know is some bad things are going to happen. They always do when people come against the word of the Lord, and specifically when it's dealing with Israel. And just take those 3 scriptures and rememorize them, because you're going to start to see some more of these massive storms and these floods. I really believe that that's what's going to happen. And probably you're going to experience some massive earthquakes as well. So, and we also know that all these signs are part of the last day signs, because Jesus in his word in Luke 21:11 told us that we would see these great earthquakes. Now, is it possible that some of these quakes are coming because of the curse? I do believe that it is possible. So, as a steward of Christ, and as a steward of somebody who's keeping on the watch about these signs, as Jesus told us to be when he said, keep on the watch, pray always that you be accounted worthy to escape all these things. He said it over and over again, to keep on the watch. As a steward, keeping on the watch, I'm going to do whatever I can to inform you about the things that are happening that will lead you to receive Jesus as the true Messiah and accept his word, because time is running out, and it's starting to get really critical right now. And you'll see more about this as we head towards September, and see whether they try to forcibly cause this Palestinian state inside the borders. I think September is going to be pretty interesting. But I do, first shaker we had. But I do know it's going to be a very interesting month, so let's just keep on the watch.